This is part 6, Modeling the Gun in 3D Studio Max. I'm Ben Mathis, and my website is www.poopinmymouth.com. I'm going to start off with a box and the reference plane that I drew in the concept. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up my symmetry plane and try and get a quick rough volume of the gun, lining things up with the concept. So handle. So I'm constantly looking at it from the front so I can keep the overall shape and volume in mind. These are all just using connect commands and then just moving them. Extruding out the back. So now I'm going to try and make it more rounded by moving the inside edges in. Now I just split those edges so that I could move this face in and scale them so that they would be flat. Now I'm welding these, and I'm going to scale these ones because I want this extension with the hole in it to be completely flat so that it feels like, a loop for holding. So there's going to be a lot of times where I take a face and then scale it so that it's completely planar so that I can get a very hard metal feel to it. So rounding out the handle more, still trying to stay fairly rough. Scaling that again so it'll be super flat. Then I just detached that and moved it in. I wanted the trigger guard to be really thin. Use the inset so that it would stay planar but give me a hole. Now I'm extruding it inward. So the handle is one of the more complicated organic parts, so I'm focusing a lot on it. So I just detached that and then hid all the rest so that I could focus on just those pieces of geometry. The back part had to curve more, so I chamfered the back of it so it could be a bit more rounded. So I'm toggling on the symmetry on and off so that I can see what the handle would feel like as a solid volume. You have to make sure to always be focusing on the full thing so that you get it right. And then I just used a plugin or a script called CS Untangle to make that inset a perfect geometric face so that I could extrude it in and it would look like a cylinder. Now I'm focusing on this middle main part of the body. There are several times where I've got the chunks overlapping so that I can save polys overall. So I just cloned that face so that way I could keep it completely planar and then extruded it out for this little piece. So now I'm focusing on the main part of the gun. Welding some of the body together. I used the flat shade mode to check out the silhouette of what I had so far. And I just detached that again so I could bring the face in. anytime you use an extrusion, you got to check for the face on the inside. So now I'm working on the little extruded piece above the handle. That was just a chamfer to try and get the shape just right. There are a lot of times when I make chunks where I see that I can save some polys by welding things together. So I wanted this roundness to stay, so I chamfered the back edge of the handle. The reason I don't I want as little as possible overlapping is because when I UV map, in order to not have stretching, that has to have equal space, and since it's not showing, it just takes up room, so it's much better to have it completely, as far out as possible without showing a gap. Whenever possible, I try moving things exactly in one axis so I can keep it looking mechanical. When you start to move it, eyeballing it, that can start to become very wobbly, the surface. I ended up by the end being able to overlap quite a bit of it so that I could get it to feel overlapping quite a bit and being able to weld quite a bit more than I thought, to both save on UV space and to get it smooth correctly. So anytime those edges were completely on the same line, I would weld them in just to save polys in those areas. So I was just able to weld those two chunks together. I always try and keep the new cuts on the area that's going to stay planar, and then move the other part to match so that I can weld it and not have to worry about keeping it planar afterwards. So this is going to be the barrel. I just inverted the faces, got rid of half so I could combine it together. So now I'm making sure that piece is planar. Weld it all together. And I ended up wanting this to be a full-on ledge, so I brought it back even more. So now I wanted these pieces to match the roundness of the back, so I chamfered them. Always watch out for extra very small triangles that your chamfer operations can leave behind. So I decided to chamfer those so I could get an even more rounded look. As you get far in, always remember to keep checking to see if stuff is still matching up to your original orthos. So rotating to make sure it has a good shape. Now I've collapsed the symmetry, and I'm getting rid of all the edges that are completely planar so that I can just save on polys. Hiding sub-elements when I don't need them. So then I decided I could collapse these inside edges, since it was really only from the direct side that it needed to be rounder. Just did a weld all with a really low tolerance to try and get any that might be sitting directly over top of each other. Verts. Pretty happy with how it came out, so now I'm working on the smoothing groups. Turning edges when I need to get them to look just right. And I found a couple of duplicate verts, so I was cleaning those up, welding them. Be sure to use ring and edge or loop select so you can easily get the those inside cylinders and put them on one smoothing group. So I pretty much just eyeballed it and figured out which parts would look better being, kept all on one smoothing group. Tried to keep it looking mechanical. So too many smooth edges kept it from looking correct. So by welding it, or by making most of the completely planar faces on the same smoothing group, I saved a lot, or I made it look more mechanical. This model, including is included in the body file on my website for download as a zip, so you can examine how the smoothing groups are assigned in the actual model.